They say the time for real change has finally come. Bankers have to pay the price for a shattered economy. These demonstrators are planning to stay here and grow in numbers until a real, peaceful revolution occurs. After all, if the Arab Spring was applauded by the powers that be, why not listen to a similar cry for change at home?
Occupy Wall Street is a grassroots movement. It appears to be gaining momentum across the country. Demonstrators are protesting what they call corporate greed and social inequality. King 5's Natasha Ryan joining us now from downtown Seattle to tell us protests like this are going on in a number of cities, including ours. Natasha?
That's right. We want to show you here at Westlake them occupying. You see the "We Are the 99% signs. This is the core of their message. They're referring to the banks, insurance and mortgage industries as the 1% of society. Protesters say that 1% has more influence on how this country is run, and the 99% will no longer be silent.
Banks got bailed out! We got sold out! Banks got bailed out! We got sold out!
Barbara, protesting economic conditions.
Barbara and Lyle Mercer, both World War II vets, have been married 66 years.
And we met during the war. So that's all the misery you need, isn't it?
They can find humor in almost everything, but protesting is serious business for this couple in their 90s.
We have been protesting that long for peace and for economic justice and for freedom and civil rights.
At first glance, this might seem like any other protest.
Can we just hold hands so we can make a circle of reps here?
Those involved will tell you it's different.
And it is important for this movement to say what we are for and what we are against. So we are against the domination of big business and politicians of the two big business parties, and we want our voices to be heard.
Huddled in small groups, they get to know each other.
My name is Justin. I believe that we are capable of creating a socially responsible, sane society.
There's no leaders, and it's just like an organic growth, and the conscious ideas that come out are really inspiring.
Albert flew to the East Coast, New York, where it all began, to lend support there.
We got sold out!
Like many others, he's encouraged the movement is now on the West Coast.
This is a unique moment in time. This is not going to go away. People are fed up. We've had enough. Let's see some change.
It's a hopeful sign.
We got sold out!
Hopeful sign.
And as you can hear, that chant continues tonight, and we understand this protest may even continue overnight. Now, in New York, about 400 protesters were arrested on the Brooklyn Bridge. I can tell you there's a police presence here in Seattle, but there have been no issues. Live in Seattle, Natasha Ryan, King 5 News.
What began with a small, disorganized protest on Wall Street in Lower Manhattan here in New York has grown today to demonstrations nationwide against corporate greed. From New York to L.A., even up in Maine, people took to the streets to express their anger and make sure their message is heard. But what exactly is their message? We sent NBC's Michelle Franzen to find out.
We are the 99%!
2 weeks and counting. Several hundred faithful protesters continue to camp out at a park near Wall Street. Their numbers grow each day, fueled by the power of social media. A few scuffles with NYPD and the common threat of discontent over high unemployment and distrust of government and corporations.
There's something unjust going on right now in this economy, in this society.
John Avitable drove from Connecticut to speak out.
Because we can't pay for big expensive lobbyists to work for what we want.
The sit-in has turned into a small community, complete with a food kitchen and media center. But by design, there is no one leader of this group and no organized set of demands.
We're each doing our own thing, but we're doing it together. We're coming together and we're saying things need to be changed. How are we going to do this?
Protesters may still be working to define their message, but the complaints of corporate greed and social inequality are resonating far beyond the streets of New York.
In Los Angeles today, protesters took to the streets to show solidarity.
I can't travel to D.C., I can't travel to New York, so I think it's great that we are doing this in cities across the United States.
Even in Portland, Maine, 100 people turned out. The movement, labor experts say, is also gaining the attention of high-profile activists like Michael Moore and union leaders, backing that could elevate the conversation to the political stage.
This is the liberal version of the Tea Party, especially with young people who are getting mobilized and expressing their grievances. I think this could potentially carry over into the 2012 elections and get people to the polls.
So far, the protesters say they are just getting started.
We're putting forward. Our basic goal is end corporatism and end militarism, put human needs before corporate greed. And we've been working on our demands for quite a while. I think we're quite clear on them. I think they're the demands that people support.
Is there a specific step, though, that our leaders, our government can do towards those efforts?
Well, the problem is that it's all tied together with corporatism. And, you know, it's interesting that the corporate media doesn't want to understand that. You have 6 corporate media companies that control the news media. They don't want to understand that the problem is concentrated corporate wealth. It's not surprising they don't get that that's the problem, because they're part of the problem. One thing we're doing at our event is we're advocating for democratized media. We're telling everybody who comes, they are the media. We can reach more people in the media if we work together to do it. And so come with your cameras. Come with your cell phones to take pictures. Be ready to get the word out. We are the media. We are the people. This is the goal, to shift power to the people away from concentrated corporate wealth. That's our
question. Do you envision the protests in Washington as a one-day sort of effort,
no.
Or do you anticipate it's just going to continue essentially the same as long as perhaps it continues here in New York?
That's our goal, is to stay and to bring people together. And the longer we can stay, the longer we stay will depend on how many people we have. If people come out and show the kind of anger that we know is out there as incomes drop and wealth increases, anger at the fact that 400 Americans have wealth equal to 154 million Americans, anger that our economy is worse than a middle-aged feudal economy. In the Middle Ages, 2% of the people own 90% of the wealth. We're in a situation where 1% own 95% of the wealth. We're worse than the Middle Ages. We are serfs. It's time for the serfs to revolt.